Raise your hand if you've ever walked into a room full of people and felt like everyone else already knew each other. Yeah, same. But here's the truth. Making friends isn't about being the funniest or most interesting person in the room. It's about showing up and paying attention. Most people think friendship is some mysterious chemistry that either happens or doesn't. That's not how it works. Friendship is built on small moments. One conversation at a time, one shared laugh, one, hey, I noticed that too. And the good news is you already have everything you need to start. You just haven't been using it. Here's what most people get wrong. They think they need a script. They rehearse lines in their head. They worry about sounding cool or clever. And while they're worrying, they miss the person right in front of them. The person who's also nervous. The person who also doesn't know what to say. The person who's just waiting for someone to break the ice. That someone can be you. Not because you're a natural, but because you're willing to try. So let's talk about what actually works. It's a simple tool called active observation. You've heard variations of it before, but let's break it down. Active observation means paying attention to the details that everyone else ignores. The person's shirt, their drink, the way they keep glancing at the door, the book they're holding, the joke they just made that didn't land. You notice these things, and then you comment on them. Not in a forced way, but in a way that invites a response. That's it.
Let me give you an example.
You're at a coffee shop. The person next to you is holding a book with a bent cover. Most people would say, "What are you reading?" That's pressure. You're asking them to summarize, to explain, to perform. Instead, try this. That book looks like it's been through some things. It's an observation, not a question. It's neutral, it's interesting, and it gives them an easy way to respond. Maybe they laugh and say it's their third reread. Maybe they say it's terrible, but they're finishing it out of spite. Either way, you've started a conversation without making anyone uncomfortable. Now, you might be thinking that sounds too simple. And you're right, it is simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. The hard part is training yourself to actually pay attention. Most of us spend our lives in our own heads. We're thinking about what we're going to say next. We're worrying about how we look. We're checking our phones to avoid eye contact. And while we're doing all that, we're missing the person right there. So the first step is to put the phone down. Take out the headphones. Look around. Notice what people are doing. Are they fidgeting, checking their watch, smiling at something? These little cues are your entry points. Once you start noticing, the next step is to practice turning those observations into comments. And this is where most people freeze. They overthink. They worry about sounding weird or intrusive. But here's the thing. No one cares as much as you think they do. People are self-absorbed. That's not an insult, it's just human nature. So when you say something like, "That's a bold color choice, I respect it," you're not being weird, you're being present. And people notice presence because it's so rare. Now, let's address the fear of rejection. What if they don't respond? What if they give you a one-word answer and look away? That's fine. That's not a failure. That's just information. They're not in the mood to talk. You move on. You don't take it personally because it's not about you. They might have a lot on their mind. They might be introverted. They might just not like small talk. That's okay. Your job isn't to force a connection. Your job is to open the door. Whether they walk through it is up to them. But here's the secret. Most people are desperate for connection. They're just as lonely as you are. They're just as scared of awkward silence. So when you make that first move, you're doing them a favor. You're giving them permission to be seen. And that permission is incredibly powerful. When someone feels seen, they feel valued. When they feel valued, they want to spend more time with you. That's how friendships start. Not with a grand gesture, not with a perfect line, with a simple observation that says, "I notice you exist." So where do you practice this? Everywhere. The grocery store line, the gym, the office break room, your family gatherings. The more you do it, the easier it gets. You start to realize that small talk isn't shallow. It's the first layer. It's the handshake before the conversation. And if you're really paying attention, that first layer can reveal a lot. You learn about people's interests, their moods, their sense of humor. You build a mental map of who they are, and that map becomes the foundation for a deeper connection.
Now, let's talk about follow-through. Observations start conversations, but friendships are built on repeated interactions. So once you've broken the ice, you need to show up again. You need to remember their name. You need to ask about that book they were reading. You need to say, hey, how did that presentation go? That's how trust builds. It's not about being memorable. It's about being reliable. And reliability is a choice you make every single day. One more thing. You don't have to be an extrovert to do this. Introverts are often better at active observation because they're naturally more observant. They notice the details that extroverts miss. So if you're introverted, don't use that as an excuse. Use it as an advantage. You don't need to be the life of the party. You just need to be the person who really sees other people. That person is always welcome. So here's your challenge. The next time you're in a social situation, pick one person. Notice one thing about them. Make one comment. It doesn't have to be clever, it just has to be true. See what happens. Worst case, nothing. Best case, you make someone's day. And over time, those small moments add up. You stop being the person who feels invisible. You become the person who makes others feel seen. And that's the kind of person everyone wants to be friends with. That's the move.